Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Blitz.
And I'm Todd Vanderhayden. It was a scandal that rocked Canada's whistleblower watchdog. Christiane Ouimet resigned as Public Sector Integrity Commissioner back in 2010 after the Auditor General found that she was not doing her job. On her way out, she was also rewarded with a $500,000 severance.
And her replacement, Mario Dion, was before a Senate committee today answering some tough questions from advocacy groups on his performance so far. Joining us from Ottawa is David Hutton, the executive director of the group FAIR, or Federal Accountability Initiative for Reform. So, sir, what went on inside the Senate committee meeting today?
Well, we had a good meeting. Mr. Dion, of course, gave very cautious answers, and his track record so far speaks for itself. But I was mostly interested in what the senators had to say. And, for example, they explained to him, one senator explained to Mr. Dion that he has to uncover wrongdoing in the public service in order to justify the existence of his agency. And that's absolutely correct. And that's never been said before. During Madame Ouimet's term, no one ever expressed that thought. And in fact, she quite openly said in her annual reports that investigating wrongdoing was not a high priority for her. And she got away with that. So that was good to hear, and I was also glad to hear them beginning to question what changes are required to the law. The Senate, in fact, did a good job when this law was first being passed, and they added 15 very, very valuable amendments, which were all rejected by the government of the day, at that time. And I think when we come back and look at the law again, the 5-year review of the law is imminent, then we'll find that all of those amendments have to go back in, and a whole lot more. So I was glad to hear that focus on strengthening the law.
Mr. Hutton, we know that Madame Ouimet got a lot of flack over how everything sort of shook down near the end. What questions, though, did you pose to Mr. Dion?
Well, we suggested that Mr. Dion be asked about why there hasn't been any disclosure of wrongdoing so far, what he's doing about that, and also about how he would suggest that the law be improved. And all of those questions were put to him. Mr. Dion gave reasonable answers, but what really counts is his track record and how he can turn that around in the future. Thus far, his track record is not that much different than Madame Ouimet. His style is very different. He's much more open. We have no problems in getting to meet with him. But in terms of output and results, his track record really thus far isn't much different. He's sent a couple of cases of reprisal to the tribunal, which is a start. But in terms of finding wrongdoing, he still hasn't uncovered any, although he's been in place as interim commissioner for a year, and he's had access to all of the complaints that came into Madame Ouimet. So he's had access to basically almost 5 years' worth of disclosures of wrongdoing, and he has a number of investigations underway. We'll wait to see what comes out of those.
Mr. Hutton, how have government whistleblowers been muzzled in the past 5 years?
Well, they've been muzzled by the threat of vicious career-ending reprisals, and the only wrongdoer that's ever been uncovered by this legislation was, in fact, Madame Ouimet herself. And you see what happened to her. It's not exactly punishment. It's not exactly a deterrent to other wrongdoers. We receive a constant stream of calls from people whose lives are basically in ruins, and we don't have any good news for them because there's very little in there's essentially nothing at present that's likely to work for them in terms of getting a remedy.
All right.
They end up... Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. They end up what?
Well, they end up often usually unemployed, usually unemployable, because the employer has done everything in their power to discredit and harm them. They very often have mental health issues, similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, because of the unrelenting harassment in the workplace.
Mr. Hutton, and, I think I have to end it there. Sorry, but I want to say
Sure.
Thank you very much, David Hutton in Ottawa.
Thank you for having me.